joining us. I'm Wendy Wilson, and of course tonight's show features members of the Community Film Project, a northeastern Pennsylvania organization that believes respectable feature filmmaking is no longer limited to Hollywood. With a shoestring budget, a thirst for cinematic knowledge, and a talented cast and crew, the independent filmmaker believes they can create a motion picture with a production value that far exceeds any budget. And so far, these guys are truly proving themselves right. CFP members here tonight are going to be talking to you about a night of shorts that premiered at the Endless Mountain Theaters in Dixon City recently, and these shorts are going to be broadcast right here on WVIA TV this Saturday, November 22nd at 10 p.m. So let's give a warm welcome to Community Film Project founders and members Tony Del Regno, Jeff Fowler, and Bob Sweeney. Hi guys, welcome to the show. Well, we have been waiting for this show for a very long time. We've talked about doing this for so long. You had the night of shorts at the Endless Mountain Theaters. So tell us a little bit about how this group got together and basically why. You can all kind of figure out where you're going to jump in on talking this. Is there anybody I should direct this to first, Tony?
Yeah, basically the Community Film Project was formed. Jeff and I were casting for our movie Who's Famous Now, and Jason Sherry was casting for Cubes. And what happened was Jeff and I ran into a lot of trouble finding actors. So Jeff had met Jason, and Jason had a lot of actors wanting a very small group of parts in Cubes, and Jeff and I needed a lot of actors for Who's Famous Now. Right. So Jason invited us to sit in with their casting call, and after that, the process went so well that, we decided we needed to make it official.
Very good. And Jeff, how many members would you say you have about now?
Right now, registered, we probably have in the neighborhood of a little over 500.
That's fantastic. And so tell us who those members are. Are they all filmmakers? Are they actors? Is it a cross-pollination of a little bit of everything?
Yeah, actually, when you go to our website, communityfilmproject.org, there's a register button, and you could give us your contact information and also tell us what areas of expertise that you're interested in: writing, acting, directing, editing, etc. So really the folks that are registered in our database indicate all the different fields that they're interested in, and they go throughout, follow 81 up, 45 minutes either north or south of here, and we have people all throughout that area.
That's great. And tell me, Bob, how do you fit into this whole thing? How did you become part of this group?
I actually responded to an ad in the paper. They were looking for short films for a festival that they were probably at the EFA Gallery. It was probably summer 2005, and I was doing these little animated films out in Philadelphia when I moved back here. I had really no place to show them,
right.
And so there was an Electric City looking for short films, and I called Jeff up, and he's like, yeah, sure, we'll play whatever, and I've been with these guys ever since.
It was the Turkish Cobra.
Yeah, it was a little 90-second film about a man battling like this evil cobra.
A 90-second film.
That's how I started out.
Phenomenal.
Tell
me about that. How do you make a 90-second?
Well, it was all animated. It was just two talking heads with a man and a snake and
a maraca.
And a maraca. And then yeah, they were. I didn't hear from them for like 2 days. I was like, man, they probably think this is like the worst thing they've ever seen. And sure enough, they enjoyed it, and they asked me to keep coming back and showing stuff. So I've been lucky.
And your story is a very familiar story within northeastern Pennsylvania. You moved out to the big city, you got a taste of life outside of our doors. Then you came back, and now you yourself are creating opportunities for folks here that perhaps never thought there would be a community film project somewhere, at least not in our own backyard. Mm-hmm. So I commend you all for, instigating such an organization, and I know I've followed you through the years since your inception, and there's some wonderful events that you've had. Talk about some of the things that you do.
Well, ultimately, the mission of the organization is to facilitate both the production and promotion of filmmaking in northeastern Pennsylvania. And we facilitate production by holding casting calls, holding events. For example, we have an event coming up this Monday where we're inviting the writers, producers, directors to come out and share some of their ideas, and hopefully we could get some new films launched. The details are on our website for that.
So anyone can come, anyone that's watching tonight, if they go to the website,
sure.
Tell me the website again.
Communityfilmproject.org.
They can go on there, find out it's in downtown Scranton, what time, register to come perhaps, and then they can become a part of your group or learn what you're all about.
Exactly.
Good. And tell me about the shorts program that you recently had at the Endless Mountain Theater.
Actually, yeah, for the last 3 years, we've been holding a short film series up at Endless Mountain Theaters. They've been kind enough to allow us to make 5-minute short films that play prior to Hollywood features.
Right. That's a big deal.
Plus, it also gave us an excuse to try new things because we actually had like a venue now
Right.
to kind of look forward to. So as opposed to just making these little things, everybody kind of got a little bit more ambitious as the years went on. Where it was like, all right, well, I want to try this now, and they kind of grew and grew from the first series, which was 2006, up until now. They started very like small, and they kind of grew.
And some of the films, actually, there will be a short, like a theatrical cut, a 5-minute cut, and then there'll be like a longer cut that we'll screen, at different events.
Right. That's a great opportunity for filmmakers, let me tell you. And Jeff, you were talking about the twofold, that you also are involved a lot in promotion of films around.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, Bob helps collect films from other filmmakers, and we try to program an evening, a screening event. Bob is always accepting applications. He's out hitting MySpace up all the time. We're getting some inquiries through the Community Film Project page.
And we're going to talk about how that community grows. So I'm going to throw to a clip very soon. It's on the Civil War video that you guys did. Set this up for us. Tell us what went into this.
Actually, one of our members, Steve Lewis, is shooting a film called Antietam Creek. We shot it in Oliphant. And we actually had, the three of us were all involved in the behind the scenes on this project, helping out with camera, with crew. And Steve had in the neighborhood of probably 15 Civil War reenactors.
Okay.
And,
Just hanging around. Yeah.
And they,
there's like a cannon.
yeah, we also had a authentic cannon that was
Great.
on
The police
set that
actually had
day.
to show up because we fired the cannon and something like that. There was an explosion in the park.
Right.
So we decided we would shoot a little CFP promo, and they're fun little commercials basically for us, and you'll see.
Oh,
pretty
it's
fun.
wonderful. Let's take a look at that clip right now.
Hey, Bob, this is Steve. Hey, what's going on? Ah, great. Listen, ma'am, I wanted to shoot that Civil War film this afternoon. Do you think the CFP can help me out? Thanks, CFP.
You're welcome.
Humor is a big theme in a lot of things that you do, and it's very much appreciated. But you also do a lot of serious things as well. And Tony, you just did a documentary. Talk about a little bit about that, which you did, the technology documentary.
Yeah, the effects of digital technology is basically documenting how the digital technology is helping independent filmmakers, right from acquisition with mini DV and tapeless formats to the advancement with computers and editing software to create your own DVD. And along the lines of that, you could also throw in the internet, how the internet has helped with getting your stuff seen.
Now, I said that's going to be a big theme, and there's another reel that we're going to throw to, and this is probably one of the biggest impact that you had on films, I would say. Forgive me if I'm overstepping my bounds, but it's Hanabonics, and 250,000 plus views on YouTube so far, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I told you the story earlier in the green room that I was at a baby shower in Washington, D.C., when a woman actually approached me and said, "Have you seen this?" And I said, "I know the guys who made that." So, and tell us how that started. And you also told me how one day you watched it, 10,000 people saw it. The next day it was 30,000. How did that just grow and explode?
I was actually, I was traveling out to visit my best friend out in Nebraska. He actually ended up being the leading actor in another one of my films, Get Pumped. But I was on my way out to visit my friend in Nebraska, and I arrived there, and the next morning, he tells me about this. He started getting an email from someone he hasn't heard from, in 10 years or so, and sure enough, it was a hyperlink to Hanabonics, and I was like, wow, we helped, Keith Korn and his group, One Laugh at Least, make that film earlier this summer, and now all of a sudden it's exploding, and every day, another 10,000 or 15,000 people were seeing this movie. It was amazing.
We know that Greg Korn's in the audience tonight. We'll be talking to him a little bit later. But how did Hanabonics? Did it start as a stage production and you guys made it into a film? Was that the impetus for it?
Yeah, I think they were doing that skit for many years within the area.
Right.
The One Laugh at Least group, and I think then Keith decided to try to make it into a short.
Right, and it was a brilliant
Yes.
idea at that. So let's take a look at this clip of Hanabonics.
Okay,
You're here to learn Hainabonics, which is the unofficial dialect in northeastern Pennsylvania. Now, what made you want to learn Hainabonics? You.
I was afraid people would realize we're not from this area and try to take advantage of us.
Why don't you converse a little so I can see what I'm up against?
Honey, I know I'm going to enjoy dinner tonight.
Oh yes, I'm sure the flounder Florentine will be just fabulous.
The first principle of Hainabonics is verbal economy. Now, let's say you come home from work and you want to know if your wife has eaten. What do you say?
Did you eat?
No, did you?
There, now, you see, that was 6 words. In 6 words, you could be doing something else, like getting a beer. In Hainabonics, we cut that in half. Jeet? No, Jew?
Jeet?
No, Jew?
There you go, perfect. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule in Hainabonics. Instead of saying several, we say couple to tree, usually meaning beers.
Couple to tree.
Tree is an example of a synonym in Hainabonics, which is a word that looks like another one, sounds like another one, is spelled like another one, but means something completely different. Tree could be a thing that grows in the woods, or the number of the wise men that went to see the baby Jesus. Likewise, Mayan could be an Indian tribe in Mexico, or something that belongs to me, as in that coat is Mayan.
What if that coat's not Mayan, but belongs to you? Is it urine?
To is pronounced ta. The is pronounced da. We do not say, I am going to the store. We say, I'm going to the store. All right, you try it.
I am going to the store.
Ta-da.
I am going to the store.
Ta-da.
I am going to the store. Ta-da!
All right, say you're a waiter and you want to take my order. What do you say?
May I take your order, please?
No. You don't say that to people around here. You'll frighten them. They'll think they're in a place they can't afford. Simply say, what do yous want? As you can see, the simple conjugation, I is, we is, you is, yous is, he, she, it is, they is. The plural of the word you is yous.
What do you want?
The cornerstone of Hainabonics is Haina. Roughly translated means, isn't it right? If you want some affirmation for a statement you have made, simply follow it with Haina.
This class is neato, isn't it, Haina?
Hey now.
Hold it. What's the meaning of Haina?
Isn't it right?
And what are you saying when you say, isn't it Haina?
Isn't it right?
And you sound like you have a stutter. You don't need the isn't it. It's built right into the Haina.
And we have the man behind Hainabonics with us again in the audience tonight. Kevin Jones is in our theater right now with him. Greg Corin. Kevin, let's get the scoop from Keith up there.
Well, first of all, I can't take all the credit for this. I have to first of all give credit to Chris O'Donnell, who actually wrote it. Chris is in the movie. He plays the guy in the front row. And I have to give credit to the editor par excellence, Jeff DeLulo, who's sitting right down here to my right. He cut the whole thing together, and it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been as good a short without Jeff's help on that, because I had never directed anything before,
Right.
And so I just basically, we gave Jeff the tapes and said, do something.
And he did.
There he is, Jeff DeLulo, and that's what happened. But it was a sketch, as Tony said, that our comedy group One Laugh at Least had been doing for years, and I got involved with the CFP, and they were looking for a short, and this is perfect. I'm thinking, this is perfect. Let's do this. Let's shoot this as a short, and the rest, as they say, is history.
So more than 250,000 views across the world.
Yeah.
Have you become, king of Hanabonics? Are you recognized now when you go out? Is it that obvious now
No,
for you?
Strangely enough, I got this comment 2 weeks ago. You look just like that guy, except you wear glasses. So.
Hana or no?
So.
Very funny. Very good show. Very good job. And you all had your hand in Hanabonics at some point. So tell us, what you contributed to this.
I did the cinematography, and Tony was
Lighting.
He did lighting. He was also the drummer in the polka band at the end.
Fascinating. See, that fascinates me about the Community Film Project, that you do so many things, and we've talked about that as
Yeah.
well. So you did the polka.
Yeah, I was the drummer for the polka. I was standing there, and Keith was like, "We're short one person. Get in there." So I ended up stepping in.
You do what you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, very fun.
My role in it, I helped administer a grant that was part of the whole short series of which Hanabonics was a part.
Right. So that's what's really great about the Community Film Project, is that it really is a community of film producers and filmmakers and directors and actors, and you do jump in and fill any holes that have to be filled in order to make a production come off. Are there any really funny stories about, you'd never believe it, but we had to do this?
Probably when we had to film that scene in the one film where we were on 81, and we had to film. We need this high chase car sequence shot, and we were out on the highway, kind of going guerrilla style, and it seemed like a good idea until you were actually on the highway, and then it was like, man, this is not good.
We can't do it, yeah.
But yeah, it came out well.
Good. So you lived to tell another tale.
Yeah, we had to do it twice.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, that's not bad. So not only do you help with filmmakers producing films, but you also kind of pool equipment, you help with equipment. Tell us about that, how you help people find a camera that they need to use, or maybe sound equipment, or lighting. Where do you get all your materials?
Actually, in our first series, when we were holding the meetings, Trish met with
Trish Blaine.
Right, met with
Tim Gear.
Tim Gear, and go ahead, Jeff.
It's a great name, Tim Gear.
Yeah, there were, yeah, we actually we started holding some meetings to help the various filmmakers facilitate the process of finding crew at this time, as well as some of the equipment they would need. And we were holding a meeting on right off of 81 on the Dunkin' Donuts.
81's
right
a
in
big
Scranton,
theme with you
right?
guys, right?
Yeah.
And,
We're actually filming a film about 81.
Yeah, good.
Coming out.
And so we had about maybe, I'd say in the neighborhood of about probably 8 or 10 people at the meeting, and the meeting probably went on. I'm guilty of holding pretty long meetings often, and it's probably about a 2-hour meeting. And when the meeting ended, I said, if anybody wants to hang out and mix and mingle and try to set up, set their films up with anyone else who's here, feel free to. And it turned out that Tim Gear and Trish Blaine ended up sticking around afterwards. I looked back through the window and saw them there, and sure enough, they struck up a deal where Trish would be helping co-produce Tim's film, and Tim would be shooting and editing Trish's film. And 2 films came out of it, including Trish's Red Blue, which has gone on to probably in the neighborhood of 15 film festivals all over the world, actually.
So it truly is collaborative what you do, in the very essence of.
It's actually been picked up by the Logo Network now, an affiliate of MTV.
So when your people come to you, or the filmmakers come to you, or the group comes to you, is it start with the script idea, or does it begin with the script? How does someone that wants to make a film, how would they approach you on that?
Sometimes it's less than that. We've had people come to our meetings and be like, hey, I just got this idea, and it's just one word or one sentence, and they'll be like, all right, well, Tony might be like, well, I really like doing horror film, so maybe he could help, or it's kind of wherever the interests lie.
Right.
And everybody just kind of goes off and kind of helps each other out.
Right. How many people do you normally get at your meetings when you have a meeting?
They're usually pretty small in attendance. I'd say between 10 and 15 is pretty typical.
Right.
They're usually new people we've been noticing too. They might be like, hey, I was at the screening 2 months ago, saw what you guys did, want to get involved.
Right.
And then they become really good members, and they start helping out with everything
Right.
too.
And you kind of reseed your membership, because once they see something you do, they'll get involved. Once they do something, more people will get involved, and so that's a really great way to run an organization. And it seems like you guys are really doing it well. How many years has this been? It's not.
Well, we started up in 2004.
Right.
Actually, Who's Famous Now and Cubes were being filmed throughout 2002 and 2003, I believe, right? And We formalized the organization in 2004. I actually was a grad student at Marywood with Tony. Actually, Tony and I worked together for a company, and we'd walk by each other in the hallway, and neither of us knew that we were both interested in filmmaking.
Yeah.
But then we ran into each other at Marywood, and we recognized one another, and we ended up working on a film together, or working on a script together, and like Tony mentioned before, then we met up with Jason a few months later, and
That's
that
all
was
she
really the
wrote. It was
start.
Jason Sherry, and Jason Sherry was, Jason's in our audience too. We'll be talking to him a
Yep.
little bit later as well. And he was with Cubes, and correct?
That's
Yes.
right.
Can you set up Cubes a little bit for us and speak for Jason and tell us about that? Because that was very big when it was filmed in the area, and that went on as well.
Sure.
Um,
Want to do it? I could do it. I could do it, I guess. Yeah. Cubes, it was originally based on a stage play, and Jason adapted it. Basically, the cubicle setting ended up showing like an interlocking group of cubicle people, rotating in and out of this cube. And there's, I believe, 6 different stories. And we get to see some of the characters progress, throughout time. When they're paired with different members, with different coworkers. You start to see how the proximity of who you sit near at work could have such a profound
Right.
influence on your life.
If you think about it, it was like The Office before its time,
Yeah.
kind of a deal. It was really an interesting concept. And we talk about humor, and I can't say it enough how humor is a very strong way to convey a message. And you guys do it so well. The next video we're going to take a look at is called Star World. Who wants to set this one up and talk about Star World?
I guess I could do this one as well. Basically, I've been a big Star Wars fan.
Right.
Well,
It shows, yeah.
I was a big Star Wars fan my whole life as a kid. Grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I was much like millions of other people. I was really highly, had a lot of anticipation for the new Star Wars
Right.
films, and then when I saw them, I was pretty disappointed actually. So. This movie kind of tells the story of 3 geeks who have been waiting their whole life, for this new Star Wars movie to come out, new Star World movie to come out, and sure enough, it comes out. They actually get an advanced version of it. That's what we see
Right.
a little bit, I think, of in this clip. They get an advanced version before the special effects are done, and it's so bad that it has some bad consequences for some of our lead actors here.
Good. Let's take a look at that clip right now.
I don't really have that good of a feeling about this.
Navi, do you have any idea where we are?
According to my coordinates, we're entering a meteorite nexus.
I thought you said you were shortcuts.
This can't be it.
Now, there were some very familiar faces actor-wise in that scene. Tell us, who was there? Who was some of the people portraying those characters?
J.W. Caldwell had the Darth Vader helmet on.
Right.
We saw Sam Falbo. He was kind of like the leader of the group.
Yeah.
And we also had Dane Bauer.
Right. And that's a 10-minute film, you said.
Yeah, it's a 10-minute director's cut.
Right. And is that on Saturday? Will that be included with the shorts that we have Saturday?
yes,
Oh, good.
yes.
So folks can watch the whole 10-minute version of that.
Right.
Again, Saturday, November 22nd, starting at 10 p.m. We're going to have a whole a cachet of the shorts that you put together.
The best
It's
of.
The best of the Community Film Project shorts. Now, we also talked about promotion, and that's always a big part of it. We've got a clip that we'll show next. So how do you promote yourselves when you have these films? So let's say this is the anti-drug promo, I call it. Where would people see this? Is it internet-based? Is it,
Pretty much
Yeah.
everywhere. We put it up all up on YouTube, MySpace, and every time we have a screening, we, bumper. We use those bumpers
Right.
in between the films.
Whose concept was this one?
Actually, I think what happened on this one, we got together, we had just a brainstorming session, and really YouTube helped facilitate this process. We were searching for some old clips on YouTube, and we ran across the anti-drug commercial, and a
Right.
group of us were like, wow, it would be really great to spoof this.
Right.
And I think it turned out really well, and we'll see that that Keith Corin from Hayden Bonics is also in this one.
He's a big star in this one, too. Let's take a look at that clip right now.
This yours?
No.
Your mother said she found it in your closet.
I don't know. One of the guys must have.
Must have what?
Look, Dad, it's not mine.
Answer me. Where did you learn how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Parents who use CFP have children who use CFP.
I still crack up.
Again, very funny. You said that was your room?
Yeah, that was my old bedroom. Yep.
Do your families go crazy with this? Are you always guerrilla filmmaking somewhere and borrowing things from the house and Mom, I need that, or going to the neighbors, I need some props. How do you
I know initially, like when I started getting into my mom was kind of like, all right, I don't know where this is going to lead, and then I let her do a voice in a film, and that's all she, she wants the red carpet treatment now.
Oh, good. So she's jumped on board as well.
Yeah.
That's good. How about you guys?
I still have a lot of totes filled with props, really from the old film Who's Famous Now, still down in my mom's basement. So
Right.
She's been, my parents have been very supportive.
That's good. Tony, any funny stories?
I've got equipment and lights scattered all over.
Right.
So
Ready to go and at a moment's notice
That's
whenever
right.
you need it. It seems like, you run into the phone booth and you jump out as filmmakers and you're ready to go at any given moment.
Yeah.
So tell us about funding. How do you fund such an organization? How do you get together? And what is the cost to produce some of these films? I know I was blown away by some of the costs that you guys told me about earlier. Let's talk a little bit about funding and how you make films on the budget that you have.
Well, really the two main sources of fundings would be, personal funding from the filmmakers themselves, and then secondly, we have received several grants from like Lackawanna County Council on the Arts. So those have been the primary sources of funding.
Right. So talk to me about the budgets for the films that you do. Bob, you had me laughing. How much was the last one?
I think $200.
$200. And what did you have to spend it on?
I don't even know, to be honest with you. I think I had to make alien costumes.
Gas masks.
Gas masks. And
Right.
I had to build a rocket ship. So
And you
that's
told me
where-
that actually makes you a better filmmaker. Expound on
well,
that.
it's just, you kind of can't throw money at your problem, so you have to think of ways to solve these problems. Like I was doing a film that took place on the moon in the 1920s, so it's like, how do I go about doing that?
Right.
So it's just, you kind
On
of...
a $200 budget. Yeah.
Well, I didn't set out to be on a $200 budget. It was just like, I didn't want to blow my savings on a
Right.
15-minute film. But, through goodwill of others, people helping you out, people giving you their time.
Right.
Like, I needed all these old-fashioned floodlights, and I borrowed them off one of my friend. Tony did all the lighting on it, and you kind of get by. You try to spend the money where you need to spend the money.
Right.
Try not to be too wasteful on it, as long as you feed everybody.
Right. We're going to get to a clip on that, but not next. We're going to talk about the Get Pumped video. Who wants to talk about this one? I think that was you, Jeff.
Yeah,
That's your baby.
That's me, yep. Get Pumped is about a consulting company known as Pumped Associates. And basically, Pumped Associates, they could be hired by individuals, they could be hired by companies. Essentially, their mission is to help you get fired up and pumped up to do whatever. They've been hired by the Postal Service to help a mailman who wasn't performing very well. They've been hired by a restaurant, for example, who was looking for a new way to help throw parties and present a cake at their restaurant. So those are a couple examples of how they, some of their clientele.
Right. Let's take a look at that clip right now. Now, it's interesting that it's a web series. Talk to us about that.
Yes, actually, what you'll see Saturday night is you'll see a 7-minute cut of the film. There's actually a 30-minute cut of the film as well. And in that 30-minute cut, I'm eventually going to slice that into 8 or 9 webisodes that I'll be releasing in 2009. And in addition to that, we've got many other bulleted lists of future webisodes. So
right.
Actually, the star of that film will be moving back to the area in probably in the February timeframe, so that will greatly help the series.
So they'll be here.
Yeah.
more accessible. That's good. Talk to me about the editing. Talk to me about the music. Talk to me about the lighting. Talk to me the technical side of this. How do you manage with the...
Well, I think for the most part, you know, on our budgets, we cannot handle like professional studio lighting. So a lot of our lighting comes from Home Depot and things of that nature, Walmart, LED flashlights, things of that nature, and they really do work.
Right.
As far as the editing and the sound goes, you know, like I was saying before, with the advance in computers, you know, any $900 store-bought computer with probably a $120, $130 software package will do the trick now.
Wow.
Because of the technology, you don't need to really go out and configure higher-end editing workstations. So, you know, if you look at that and then you topple on maybe a $1,200 video camera to a $3,000 video camera, you have the capitalization to go forward to make many movies.
Wow.
Whereas if we were back in the film era, once that film was used and developed.
So talk to the young teenager that's at home watching right now and says, I want to be a filmmaker. What's some equipment that they can initially purchase right now that can at least get them started?
I would say probably a $300 or $400 mini DV camera. Any type of computer with at least a dual core or quad core Pentium chip, at least 2 gig of RAM, 500 gig hard drive or more, a DVD burner, and that's really all you need.
And they're set to go.
Yeah, and the most important thing is to really get a vision in your head and try to mimic that as your final product.
Right. And get out there and just do it.
That's right.
You know, get pumped, just do it. We're going to go back to Night on the Moon. You briefly introduced us to the concept of it earlier, and it won the Baptist Bible Film Festival recently. So expound on that one a little bit more. Tell us about, you know, it's a black and white film.
It's an old silent, well, the whole
It's a
premise,
silent film,
yeah,
right.
it was a silent
Yeah.
film and, that took place in the 1920s on the moon, kind of in the old you know, French expressionistic style. And I was doing all these very short animated films, and I wanted to just completely do something completely different.
Right.
So I was like, I'll do a silent film. And
Because why not?
it's the next logical step.
Right.
And then I wasn't going to do it, but I found out that somebody actually in the area played the theremin. So I kind of was like, that kind of got me going
Right.
in terms of actually progressing forward with it. And then it took about 2 years to finally get completed. But,
Wow. So it took you a while to
yeah.
get this one done. And that was your $200 budget.
That was my $200 budget, so
Right.
I stretched that out as
Right.
far
And
as I
how
could
long
go.
is this one?
15 minutes.
It's a 15-minute film. And this is also included in the
Yes.
Saturday, November 22nd at 10 o'clock, everyone. You can watch this one. In the meantime, let's take a look at this clip for Night on the Moon. Okay, so let's talk about special effects in that one. What did you use and how did you envision you were going to do it before you even got there?
Well, myself and the editor, Jeff DeLillo, kind of sat down beforehand. We kind of talked over everything of what we wanted to do and how we could feasibly do it, where it wasn't too like slick looking. It still had that old like charm to it.
Right.
So we kind of pre-planned for a while, and we kind of just went out and I built a rocket in my garage.
Right.
And
what'd you build the rocket out of?
actually just cardboard and aluminum siding and duct
And how
tape.
about that little bit of animation that was in there?
Actually, the animation took longer than expected. That was
Yeah.
just made out of construction paper and
You filmed it
and frame by frame.
and put it all together
Yeah.
and did the editing process?
Mhm.
Wow, so you're like the MacGyver of special effect
I
filmmaking.
wouldn't say that, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of trips to Lowe's, a lot of trips to
Yeah,
Home
a lot
Depot.
of that's
and-
where most of the $250 went
Yeah.
to Lowe's.
Fascinating. So where was that shown? Who has seen that film so
Actually,
far?
it's only shown twice. Once was
Really?
at Baptist Bible, and once was a couple weeks ago at Endless Mountain Theater.
So that's right, at the Short Festival. What was the response to it?
Everybody seemed rather pleased with it, which
Right.
is nice. Because, as Jeff and I put like 2 years worth of work into it, and to finally see everybody appreciate it was a good feeling.
Right. It must be that feedback that you get. And we talked about this too, is that besides seeing it on the web, besides going to MySpace Films, is that where a lot of, I'm not as cool as I would like to be when it comes to this. But when you get it to that theater, what kind of appreciation do you have for those theater owners that let you show at their venues? you know, because they encourage just as much as anyone above and beyond. Because if you can't get a gathered audience to see these films, you know, you don't get that personal satisfaction of being filmmakers. So what do you say to people that say, come on down and show your film at my movie theater? And are there enough of them out there?
Are there enough movie theaters out there?
To show
our
community
films?
film project films? Because
Well,
you know, it's
actually,
very hard
you know,
to get in.
It is
The
very
distribution's the worst part.
Especially for like the bigger chain restaurants.
Right.
Yeah. Well, basically, I mean, we've had a great relationship with Dave Costelli up at Endless Mountains Theater, and,
Right.
and he's got an independently owned theater, Endless Mountains Theater, and really, right there, you're speaking with the owner, the CEO, and you're not going to deal
Right.
with any of the corporate bureaucracy, which is great.
And he embraces this.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. He's also participated in. Jason holds a film festival down at Wyoming Seminary, and it's a student film festival. Dave has come down on several occasions and served as, I believe, a judge, and then also he's allowed the winner of that festival to screen up at CFP
Oh, how
events,
exciting.
which
So the
is great.
students get an opportunity to have their film on the big screen as well. That's pretty interesting. Now we've got one of our last clips that is coming up now, and it's Mr. Earthquake. Who wants to set this one up? Because this one looks very funny as well.
Well, after we did the anti-drug promo, we were kicking around promo ideas, and then Jeff and I came up with a script for this horror thing called The Demiser, and so him and I wrote it down, and then we passed off to Tony, who handles all the financial things, and he didn't greenlight it, so we had to come up with something.
$50, that was the budget. We had 25 in the account, so we couldn't do it.
So we had to go back to the drawing board, and we came up with Mr. Earthquake.
That came in at $24.97.
And it worked.
Actually, less than that.
So set us up. Tell us about it before we see
Mr.
the clip.
Earthquake is about an old special effects man named Ed Fisk, who's played by Art Walsh. And he could basically create earthquakes for little to no money for your independent films.
Great. So he's like
He's the
prop
MacGyver
guy.
of-
He's the
of
MacGyver
a
of getting
fake
the
film
special
world.
things going. Okay, before we even try to explain anymore, let's take a really quick look at this clip from the film, Mr. Earthquake.
We're filming a short film about the earthquake that hit Olympia in 1949.
Again, everyone can see these shorts that we're showing in their entirety Saturday night, November 22nd at 10 p.m. right here at WVIA. If you can't watch it, TiVo it or set your DVRs because you don't want to miss it. We have so many people that call us, 3 days after and say, oh, we missed it. So please make note, November 22nd at 10 p.m. All these shorts will be rolled into one, and we're going to watch them here on the Pennsylvania Independent Film Festival. So tell us, what's up next for the Community Film Project? What are some of the things you have, boiling on the stove?
I'm working on a movie right now. It's part of a series I'm developing called Ghost Stories. The movie's called The Calling. It's a horror movie. And it's basically about how society is actually the true horror against people. And it's actually starring Keith. He's in the audience right there. And it's about a professor who is trying to open the door between the living and the dead. And when he opens the door, a demon comes out. And the demon represents the horrors of society. And also, with the success of First Semester 2, I've started a script for another sequel to that. So probably I'll have a comedy movie out in the summer and another horror movie around next Halloween.
Very good. So how will our audience members know how to see that? Just go to give us the website again.
CommunityFilmProject.org, and you can check all the updates on when the movies will be out.
And also, if they sign in and join, do you do e-newsletters and blasts that you let people know what's going on so they can keep track?
Yeah, we always we'll send out an e-vite to all of our members, whether it's casting calls or screenings.
Right. Jeff, what's next for you?
I'm actually working, I will be working on more episodes or webisodes of Get Pumped. In addition, I also, this past year, I completed a film called The Wingman, Bingo Night Creepin', about a professional wingman. And James Saliva was the writer of that, writer and star of that particular
I've
film.
seen clips of that one as well. I know Jim
Yes,
Haliva very well. It's very, very funny. Can people watch that right now on YouTube? Can they download that?
Yes, that's all over YouTube.
Yes,
and
so that'll be the next
MySpace.
Hanabonics, exactly.
Yes, I believe it's youtube.com/wingmanbiz, I believe.
And you filmed some of that in a bingo parlor, is that true?
There's a bingo parlor that I drive by on my way to work every day in Archibald. Bob was actually the director of photography on that. We scouted out and we probably shot 30 hours of footage for that movie.
We had to like go to a lot of bingo halls, and there was some competitive bingo playing
Yes,
going on.
bingo is pretty intense.
It's very intense.
I still, honestly, I don't know how to play at this point. I've spent, dozens and dozens of hours in a bingo hall. It's not your grandma's bingo.
Well, they have 12 cards in front of them, and
They
they rub
actually
the
had to
rabbit's
stop
foot
us.
in.
They were like, "That's not how it's
There's
done."
patterns.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Round robin, and yeah, I
Four
know.
corners,
Four
yeah.
corners, exactly. So,
There will be a new episode of The Wingman coming up in the next couple months as well.
very good. And Bob, what are you working on?
Short film-wise, nothing right now. I'm putting together a little television show webpage about like local bands. So like if
very
any
cool.
local musicians are interested in being part of that.
How can they get in touch with you?
It's the Sounds of Scranton. If you go onto MySpace, Sounds of Scranton, or YouTube Sounds of Scranton, or just I think Sounds of Scranton at .blogspot.com.
Good.
If any bands are interested, we're looking to have you.
It's a very good idea. Very good. Now we're going to start the Q&A portion of our show. Again, we have correspondent Kevin Jones working that microphone up in the audience. And Kevin, you have someone that wants to ask our film maker some questions?
Yes, I'm here with Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you have a question for the filmmakers?
I do, thank you. First of all, this is really interesting, and it's not something that I know a lot about, so it's great hearing about this and sharing in this with you. Now, we heard a lot about short films this evening. Any plans to do feature films or anything that you have thought about with that?
I think it's always on the back burner for all of us, but we all have day jobs, so it's very hard to get the ball rolling on that.
Plus, you've got the axe man over there who axes you if you go over $25 in the budget.
Yeah.
So what does it cost? What are the costs incurred that would be in a feature film? Like what?
See, with all the capabilities and all the technology now, you could do it on the cheap. The story is the most important part.
Right.
If you got something that could captivate people for 90 to 120 minutes,
right.
And one thing also to note, I mean, the whole community film project pretty much started with 2 films that were much longer in length. Specifically Cubes, which is available on Netflix, and Who's Famous Now, which is a 68-minute long film. So we have done some longer stuff, but I personally have more of the philosophy that I like doing smaller films where I could learn more quickly and then implement them on future projects.
Right. And we have someone here in our audience. We've referred to him all throughout the show. It's Jason Cherry, and he's one of the founding members of the Community Film Project. And you were very much involved with Cube. So Jason, thank you so much for being here tonight. And just, tell us about Cubes. And it's available on Netflix.
Yeah, actually, as far as I can tell in my research, and I've looked into this, Cubes is the first film that was actually produced and shot locally that's actually been available through national distribution.
Very exciting.
There have been other films that were shot locally or films that were done by local producers and then taken outside the area. So this is the only truly local film that has actually gone on to receive national distribution.
And you've taken this on the film festival circuit, have you not?
We've been actually in film festivals all over the country. We've been in Cape Cod, we were in New Jersey, and then actually in Australia and in Toronto,
Excellent.
strangely enough.
So what have you have boiling on the stove, like I asked the gentleman up on stage? What are you working on now?
Well, one of the things, to go back to the question about features, and I think one of the reasons you see so many of our filmmakers producing shorts is they definitely have this time span that's completable. And for those of us who have worked on features, and Tony and Jeff started out, when we started the Community Film Project, we were working on features. And the problem is they take 2 to 3 years. The process for Cubes was 1 year of actually writing and working on the script, another year of actually shooting it, a year of editing, and then a year of promoting it, taking it out to festivals. So by the time you're done with that process, you really need to have a story and a script that you want to spend 5 years with.
Right.
Because when you're working full time and you're trying to do this in your spare time, that's how long it takes.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you're still working full time when you're doing this.
That's it. I work full time and part time in addition to this with everything that I end up
And
doing.
you're married to a wonderful woman, and you have a child, don't you?
I do. My wife, Ellen, who's actually also an actress, she's one of the stars of Cubes and also one of the producers of the film as well. And right now, that's the thing. We're working on another project, trying to develop it and figure out while balancing having a 4-year-old, our son Kieran, and how do you find the time to write, which has been our problem, to figure out getting a script off the ground, which can take time too.
So it's all in the family, but it's also that devotion that you've had for so many years. And how did you get your start in films?
I started out way, way back in elementary school and high school with old VHS cameras, the kind you had to drag, you know, the VCR on your shoulder
Right.
and hook up to the camera to use. And I used to do these just terrible little films with my brothers and sisters. I'd make them act and do scenes over and over again. And I would edit them by pressing play on one VCR and record on another, and that was all you could do back then.
Right.
And then I actually went to film school at Ithaca, and while I was there, worked on actual film. And part of the problem was you could not produce film cheaply
Right.
and easily. And I'd watch students around me spending $35,000 on a 15-minute film that they were going to shoot for their senior thesis. So eventually I actually got my degree in drama so I could focus on storytelling, focus on directing actors. And now the technology has gotten to the point where it's just so much cheaper. It's the electronic process is so much easier to deal with than the chemical process.
Right.
You're not waiting to process film. What you
slicing.
see with digital
Yeah.
video is usually what you get, and then you can tweak it and color correct and do some of the finer details that take you the rest of that third year to finish.
Right, and this is the question that I have for everyone that makes films in this area. You chose to stay in Pennsylvania to make your films. You didn't go to Hollywood, you didn't go to New York. Do you think that's better for what you want to do with life? You know, to explain that to us.
I have two friends right now who, on the same time frame I was on, graduated, went out to California, and they've actually had 2 films they've written for ABC Family. And it took them 10 years to get those 2 films for ABC Family. They were out there hustling every day for 10 years. Meanwhile, here in a 3-year span, I was able to, from scratch, create, produce, have all my own say for this film. I could create the budget myself, decide what needed to go into it, use the actors I wanted, didn't have to answer to anybody but myself.
Right.
My friends are not really thrilled with the process because they end up being directed more by administrators, by people that aren't the filmmakers necessarily, and changing the story to fit the audience. I can make the film that I want and then go find the audience.
Right.
And I think every time I talk to somebody who's gone outside the area, it's amazing how many of them come back because either they can find the money here to do it or they can find the places that will let them shoot here. With the equipment's the same. They don't have better equipment in LA. They don't have better equipment in New York. I can get the same camera here. I can get access to the same people. And I mean, we've had a pretty large theater community in this area with a lot of wonderful actors. And one of the early things when we founded the organization was I realized there was really nothing like that for film. We didn't have a community film project, which was the idea, an entry-level place that everybody could get involved. And we had so many wonderful actors just sitting around, some of whom are just wonderful film actors, and now we've got that medium for them to play with, too.
Right, it's such an exciting thought, and Jason, Sherry, thank you for being here tonight. And you must, you know, mirror what he says in that, you know, you could go to Hollywood, you could go to New York, but you're all here making films. Talk to our audience out there who all the kids think, I'm going to Hollywood. You know, what's your argument to them to either go to Hollywood and come back, or why not get your feet wet here?
Well, I think before you even think about going to Hollywood, you need to acquire, whether it's acting, directing, editing, all the skills. And, you know, when you go out to Hollywood, there are a million people trying to do what you want to do. In this area, there's not that many. And you have the opportunity to work with great actors and develop your skills and develop your talents and get noticed like Jason did with Cubes.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's on Netflix right now.
Right.
And, you know, like I said, there's just no better time to do it than now. And really, really develop your skills.
Very good.
I find that, you know, first of all, I think we have some beautiful locations, beautiful architecture in the area. I think locations have been so accommodating to me as a filmmaker. You know, it's not like I'm going out getting permits and things like that. I mean, I'm you know, networking through friends, through coworkers, and through of course, other members of Community Film Project, and getting a lot of doors opened up. And then once you have some samples of your work, you know, it's pretty cool to hand off a DVD to a, you know, prospective person who might be able to give you a location, and they'll be kind of impressed to say, hey, this person did this, and I'd like to support them and help them make another film
Right.
of that caliber.
Do you agree, Bob?
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, as we progressed, a lot more businesses, a lot more people have attached onto us
Good.
or helped us out just because we have the material to back us up, where it's not just like we're just some kid off the block. I mean, like, hey, can we film here?
You've actually got tape in hand that you can show
Yeah,
people,
we're
or
legit.
you're at the Endless Mountain Theater, somebody goes to see a movie, they're going to see one of your clips before that main event comes on. That's pretty exciting. And I think we have another question in the audience, one of our good friends here at WVIA. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yep, we have Pete. Pete has a question.
Yes, first of all, congratulations on some very innovative projects. Whenever I get a chance to talk to people making movies, I love to know what filmmakers you most admire.
You want to take that?
Start, Bob.
For me, like Spike Jonze was always one of my favorite because he kind of dabbled in everything, documentary, music video, and like Woody Allen was also a very big influence growing up, and Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, I also liked Spike Jonze, P.T. Anderson. In addition, of course, growing up as a kid, I always liked, Lucas, Spielberg films. I mean, those always
Right.
were perfect for me.
That's where Star World came
Yeah.
from. Yeah, Tony?
Dan Curtis, John Carpenter, Alfred Hitchcock.
You're the horror genre.
Yes, I am.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, very good. Any good horror people that you have out there now? I mean, it seems like,
You know what?
are you a fan of any of them that are modern,
Not really.
contemporary?
No, like,
I'm
I mean,
right there with you.
yeah. I mean, some of the better horror movies were done in the 70s.
Right.
And they're more psychological and leave more to the imagination than what's out there today.
Right. Not like Saw. Yes. Okay, we have another question from the audience. Go ahead, Kevin.
We're here with Brittany, and she's from Dunmore, and she has a question.
We've heard a lot about all your interesting ideas that you've had for films. How is it that you come up with these ideas and are so creative about them?
A lot of times, I mean, for me, it's just like I'll be sitting there and be like, I want to make a film about that. And then it goes into, I'll call him or him up and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And they'll be like, don't, or
I won't
proceed.
green light it.
Yeah, usually he's like, how much does it cost?
$4? Nope,
$4.
sorry, we've got $3.50. Yeah, very good.
I keep like a little notebook just with with some ideas. It might be up to like number 120 now, and some of them there's not much more than a sentence to them. And when I finish a project, I usually start flipping through the book and rereading some thoughts that I've had from 5-6 years ago, and say, well, maybe it's time to develop this one.
Right. Are you one of those people that keeps that notepad by the bed and you get up in the middle of the
Oh,
night
yeah.
and write it down? Do you all do that?
Yeah.
Because I don't at all, but I always say I want to. How does that work for you? Does it, is that where a lot of your projects come from? Do you maybe-
Daydreaming.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think anyone who's ever known me has said I was always a fantasizer, and daydreaming is one of my favorite. I don't know if that's a word. Daydreaming's always been a favorite hobby of mine, and that's a lot where I go to get inspiration.
Gets you through your work days too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Talk about cubes. That's where, we're all in our cubicles every day, and we need a creative process and a creative outlet. So it's great that you are able to facilitate that in other people and start the next generation. Tell us about the young people that are involved in the group. Is there a wave of teens that are coming up there just yet? Is it 20-somethings? Tell me about.
It's a mixture of everybody.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. I mean, to give an example, you saw Connor, I believe. Connor's about 17 years old. He was in Bob's film, A Night on the Moon, as well as the anti-drug little spot that we saw.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, I mean, the beauty of this is, it's basically, there's an opportunity for everyone. An interesting story, I think, is a friend of my mom's. She's about 80 years old or so, and almost like the Grandma Moses of independent film now. She was in The Wingman. She played a cart lady in The
I love
Wingman. Okay, and then a few months later, I was shooting Get Pumped, and she was having a birthday party. It was a surprise party, and I was like, we could work this in. And so we ended up dressing up one of our actors. He was actually going to her party to surprise her as an Elvis impersonator. So we filmed it. The film was actually documentary style, but this 80-year-old woman ended up having several lines of dialogue in Get Pumped, and another brief appearance in The Wingman.
Very, very multi-generational, and that is very exciting. Well, I have to tell you, this hour absolutely flew by. Again, Saturday night, 10 p.m., you can watch a collection of shorts for the Community Film Project. In the meantime, gentlemen, thank you for coming here tonight. Thank you to the audience, and we'll see you next time on the Pennsylvania Independent Film Festival. Good night.
Local programming is made possible by the following community-minded sponsors and by viewers like you. Thank you.